Okay, so today, guys, we are looking at my run in the UKPL £560 main event in Edinburgh. We managed a pretty reasonable run, and there were some very interesting hands along the way. So without further ado, let's hop into the action. All the main events have pretty much ended in misery for me. A mixture of poor play, lack of tournament experience, and of course, my rotten luck has left me unable to put together a deep run so far. But this time it's about to be different, and we are kicking off our tournament with a pair of queens in the first level. I have to say the table is looking particularly weak, and I'm feeling good about my chances for once. The under the gun player limps, there's a raise to 700 from under the gun 1, the button cold calls, and then it's over to us in the small blind. A healthy raise is in order, so I do, to the tune of 3600. The limper folds, but both other players call, and we're off to a flop, which is 10-8-4 with 2 spades. Not ideal, and my default cash strategy would probably be to check here, but I decide to bet on this occasion. 4100 into 11,400. Under the gun folds, but the button wants to come along, and the turn brings the 2 of spades, completing a flush. Definitely not the brick I was hoping for, so I check, and they quickly check behind. The river is the jack of clubs, and I think I probably just have to bet here. It's not the best card, but it's not awful either. 2/3 is too thin, I think, so I go for a small block bet. 3,200 into the 19,600 pot, and they quickly fold. Bit of a weird and uncomfortable one to start us off, but not a bad result, and we've got a few chips off the rip. So after a good start, it's time to try to capitalize. The hijack opens to 700, and I look down at deuces on the button. Definitely the sort of hand we want to flick at a call with, so I do, and both blinds call as well. The flop is king 8 deuce with 2 diamonds, which is pretty much as sensual as it gets, let's be honest. It checks to the hijack, who goes for a continuation bet, and we have a decision between bet and raise. I think raise is better. We just get a lot of continues from the various recreationals in the hand, and although it looks insanely strong, I don't back these players to read too much into that. I do end up calling on this occasion, which while not awful, I don't like as much. Still, we have a set and plenty of time to get value later on in the hand. The big blind comes along as well, and we go to a glorious turn, the 8 of diamonds. It literally couldn't be better, as the board has paired, giving me a boat, and the flush is completed. I'm hoping at least one of these chaps has a flush or an 8, and it's looking fucking good when big blind donks for 1,400 and the hijack pretty much clicks to 3k. While I don't mind both options on the flop, this is definitely a time to raise. If one of these players does have a flush or an 8, I don't think they're going to be willing to part with it. I bump it up to 8,000, which looks obscenely strong, but after the big blind folds, the original raiser wants to see the river. He tosses in the additional 5k, and we go to a pretty bricky looking queen of spades. There's no way this geezer plays queens like this, so if we were ahead before, we still are now. They check, and they have 15k left, and with 23k in the middle, there's only one move here. We pop it in, and they take about a minute before flicking in the call with the old 10-8 offsuit with a diamond. Just a cooler, bro. We're up to 72k at level 2 from a 30k starting stack, and it feels pretty good to start well for once. I'm busily writing down my deuces boat hand for Instagram as we approach the break, and half my table has already left when the cutoff opens to 900. I'm ready to pitch and head to the toilet, but I look down at ace deuce of hearts, and so a flop is definitely in order. I call, and we see ace jack 9 with 2 spades and a heart, certainly above average, so when they c-bet for 1,200 into 2,200, there's certainly nothing to do but call, so I do, and the turn is a 10 of hearts, giving me a flush draw. Same situation as the flop, I'm never doing anything but check calling this hand, so I toss in the 2,500 when the cutoff decides on a second barrel, and we are off to a river. As is seemingly customary for this particular tournament, I drill the absolute tits off of it in the form of the Queen of Hearts, giving me the nuts, barring the unlikely King 9 of Hearts, which would just be phenomenal content anyway. I decide not to donk and check it to the cutoff, who fires a third billet to the tune of 8,500 into 9,600. Pretty polarizing bet, which is basically saying he has a king, but who gives a shit because I've got the effective nizzies anyway. Bit of Hollywooding to sell the chance I'm bluffing when we all know I'm nowhere near good enough to find one before I bang it in for 25k effective. The cutoff is thoroughly unamused and snap folds, and we're off to the first break with 85k off 30k. Love to see it. After losing a small pot, we're back in the thick of things with ace king. The blinds are 200, 400, and the under the gun and under the gun 1 players both limp before the low jack. The same player from our previous hand makes it 2,000 to go. The hijack calls, which I completely missed at the time, leading me to make a puny raise to 7,000. With the extra money in, I definitely needed to be making this closer to 10k, but it's too late, and I need to start pretending I meant to do it. Obviously, both low jack and hijack call, because I've practically forced them to with my diabolical sizing, and we're off to a flop of queen 7 deuce rainbow. Not ideal, but certainly a decent flop for me overall, so I go for a bet of 6,900 into 22,600, hoping for some folds or at least some assistance from the dealer on the turn. The low jack calls before the hijack gets out of the way, so it's plan B, and the dealer obliges with the king of hearts on the turn. Amazing card for me overall, and I'm ready to play for stacks, so I bet 13,000. A bit of umming and ahhing, but they end up folding, and we add a healthy pot to our stack. We're up to 100k, and I am getting a fucking nosebleed up here. It really is juicer after juicer here as we enter the 400-800 level and we get a blind jam under the gun for 4k. The hijack, a wild player who we will be tangling with a lot down the line, makes it 10k. And we wake up with a wonderful pair of kings in the big blind. He's got about 30k left, and I do briefly consider trapping, but I think jamming is just the better play, so that's what I do. The hijack is pretty disgusted with developments and looks like he might flick it in before eventually letting it go. And now all we have to do is beat the powerhouse 6-5 offsuit from the under the gun blind shover. We turn top set to kill him dead, and I'm delighted to hear that the river would have completed the hijack's flush with ace queen of clubs. We avoid a nasty one and chip up even more. Starting to enjoy this tournament lark. This next hand is a quick one, but honestly maybe my favorite from the whole tournament. It falls to me in the small blind, and the player to my left in the big blind is UK Tour regular and well-respected player Robbie Bull. It just so happens that I decided to rewatch a video about blind versus blind play in tournaments on the train up here, and I was hoping to pick up a hand that I had a clue what to do with. Robbie has about 25 big blinds, and I look down at ace-7 offsuit, a hand I'd probably either limp or just raise to like 3 bigs with before, but I remember from the video that hands like ace-7 off and small pocket pairs do begin to just open jam from the small blind at this stack depth. I was very excited for what felt like the first time ever in a tournament, as I knew exactly what I was meant to do for once. Very refreshing. I ram my ace-7 offsuit down Robbie's throat, and he bemoans that he's forced to fold the old queen-10 offsuit. I don't know guys, this one just felt really good. After dwindling for a few levels, we have a classic tournament spot up next, and not one I'm usually particularly good at. We're at 500, 1000, and I open to 2300 with ace king. The big blind 3-bets to like 12k and has about 50k to start the hand. No reason to do anything other than bang it in, so I do, and the big blind snaps me off with jacks. Now for the skill part.
Good luck.
To me.
So by some miracle, we've won a flip, and I'm adding chips back to my stack up to about 110k now, which is 110 big blinds. In our next interesting hand, I'm opening with ace-queen offsuit to the now standard 3200 at 800, 1600. You'll have to take my word for it that that's what I had, because apparently I never showed the camera. The big blind is a very aggressive regular, the same player from the ace deuce of hearts flush hand from earlier on, and he's been particularly active. I was actually really happy to see him make it 12k to go, because I know he's been up to it, and I start to inquire about his stack.
Did you have big chips behind there?
He's got about 70k or so, and I've got a very itchy trigger finger. I give it some customary time, but I absolutely can't wait to stick this in his eye. After about 20 seconds, I grab a wad of yellows and move them across the line. I'm not surprised to see him completely uninterested and snap mucking, and again, we're adding chips to the stack, up to 125k. Lovely. Another immensely skillful hand coming up now as the undergun player opens things up to 5500 at 1000, 2000. I'm hoping for something I can at least defend with in the big blind, and I guess you could say that aces qualifies. He has just over 40k left, so I decide to go for the non-all-in raise size to 14,500, and let's count how long it takes my man to get his stack in.
Good luck.
I'll just see if you've got spades, please. Yeah, cheers. I just want to see if he has spades.
Table 8, seat 2.
Okay.
I obviously snapped his tits off, and he's got the thoroughly fucked ace-queen of spades. I actually couldn't see what suit his queen was, so when the board brought a spade, I moved his ace out of the way just in time to reveal it was ace-queen suited, and that the turn had brought him a flush draw. Fortunately, it bricks off, and we're now up to 165k, which is just over 80 big blinds. I can't help but notice that I've started to pick up a little heat for once, and not too many hands later, it's actually starting to get a little embarrassing. A tight player called David, a very nice gent who I had a pleasant conversation with at the break, opened things up to 6,500 at 1,000, 2,000. I'm in the cutoff, and I peel back yet another pair of aces. I have to admit, there's not many better feelings than getting aces after an open in the later stages of a tournament, and I could hardly be more aroused, but alas, we have a job to do, and we 3-bet to 15,500. David's got about 200k, so he covers me, and he wants to see 3 more cards, flicking in the 15-5. Even more embarrassingly, the flop is ace jack 3 with 2 spades, and I've got top set. Apart from the fact that it's really hard for David to have something here, this is hardly dissuading my arousal. David checks, I fire out a small bet of 11,500, and David elects to call. The 5 of spades on the turn takes me from full mast to a manageable semi, but obviously we're still going to have the best hand most of the time here. I go for around 40% pot to set up stacks on the river, but David has had enough, and we'll have to make do with another not so insignificant amount of chips being added to my stack. We're up to 200k, and we're hitting the business end of day one. So let's do a little stock take now. We have 12 players left. I have 210k and the average stack is 125k. A very healthy position made better by the fact that we are playing down to 9 players tonight, and those 9 players will make day 2 and automatically be in the money. I have not cashed one of these mains before, and I'm starting to allow myself to believe it could be my day. But there's definitely some sweat left to come. We are 6-handed and I open ace queen off on the button to 4,500 at 1,000, 2,000. A very out of line and aggressive player in the big blind fires back with 13k, and I'm getting a little bit of deja vu from the earlier ace queen hand. Similar to before, I expected a lot of aggression from the big blind, and similar to before, I absolutely can't wait to ram this up his arse. He's got about 100k in his stack, and I can't imagine there's many hands he'll be thrilled calling off with here, as there's 3 players left at day 2, and some that do I'm doing fine against anyway. It's time to do what must be done. The similarities continue as the big blind couldn't think of anything worse than calling off, and we are chilling over the 200k mark still. Surely not long to go now. Well, with 10 now left, it's looking like it might be time to wrap things up as David gets himself all in with queens against kings, and I am a hold away from an 80 big blind day 2 stack and being in the money. But this is where things start to get a little dicey. David pings a queen and we have to keep playing. There's a few more all-ins, but no one is fucking busting with a7 cracking queens on the other table. That would have sent me through with a respectable 60 bigs, but no luck again. We might have to play some poker here, boys. The blinds are now 2,000, 4,000. We're 5-handed and the cutoff opens to 8k. I have king, queen of hearts and debate a raise, but decided that with short stacks still lurking, I play a bit safer and just call. I have to admit, I don't really know if this is correct, but here we are. The punty big blind calls as well, and we're off to a flop, which is ace 6-7 with 2 hearts, giving me the nut flush draw. Absurdly enough, the big blind decides to donk for 11k and the cutoff calls. Not really sure I have another option, but just to call here, so I do and pray for a heart, but it's a very disappointing ace of spades. The big blind is still going after it, this time betting 15k, and now the cutoff folds. I'm not happy and I feel like I'm getting milked here, but I just have to call and hope, so I do. But the river is again unhelpful in the form of the 9 of spades. This time the big blind checks and I consider bluffing briefly, but my hand is just so awful to bluff with, and this guy is a massive station, so I decide to just shut it down. He shows a very standard queen 7 offsuit and scoops the pot, which tilts the fucking life out of me, as you can imagine, and now I'm one of the shorter stacks in the room. No one seems to be busting, and I'm starting to worry if it just might be me to go. We're now in desperate need of some chips, and it's time to get involved as I look down at ace queen offsuit. I open to 10k at 2,500, 5,000, and both the small blind and the big blind call. The flop is queen 8-7 with 2 spades, and it checks to me. We have a pretty clear bet, so I fire 12k into the pot. The small blind folds, but the big blind isn't going anywhere just yet and flicks in the 12k. I'm looking for the brickiest brick in the deck, and we see a 7, which seems pretty good but not amazing. The big blind checks, and I consider betting but elect for the check, and we're off to an offsuit 10 river. Seems pretty safe to me, so when the big blind checks, this time I go for value, firing out 35,000. He takes a pretty long time thinking about it, so I guess I was pretty excited that I might get paid, but eventually I do end up letting it go. Still, we desperately needed chips of any description to continue clinging on, and we have a little life left in us yet. Now with 140k at the 2,500, 5,000 level, I open up 9 out of diamonds to 10k and the big blind calls. Still no one's fucked off on the other table, so we are continuing to fight for our lives for a spot in day 2 and the money. The flop is 6-5 deuce rainbow and the big blind checks. I think checking is better here as I'm expecting a lot of aggression from this player and I would hate to bet fold my hand. I check it back and the turn is pretty awful, the 4 of clubs. He checks again and I still don't love the idea of betting, so I check it back again and the river gives me some hope. It's the 9 of hearts. I think I had the best hand a lot and this guy has been way out of line from what I've seen, so I'm actually happy to see him reach for 20k and toss it in the middle. I snap it off and get shown the very bad and unfair news that he has 6-5 offsuit for a flop 2 pair, and I am now the shortest stack in the room. Fuck my life. I'm spitting feathers in my chair as the realization properly dawns on me that I might stone bubble this after all my hard work. It's approaching 4 a.m. and we went hand for hand at around 1:30 a.m. so this has been insanely grueling. I could have been asleep with 80 big blinds, but instead I've got about 20 and I'm clinging on for dear life. As I begin to come to terms with my fate, there's an all-in and a call on the other table.
Down, please.
Oh my god. Fucking hell. This is unreal sick. My man has about 1 chip left when they get it in on the flop. It's Jack 6 deuce, and the at-risk player has somehow flopped a fucking set with 6s, and I am genuinely starting to accept that it's over for me. Unless...
Oh my god, that's so sick. We're in. Well, we're into day 2 at the expense of that guy's knuckles with a fucking bowl because we didn't win a fucking hand for 2 hours.
The 9 on the turn finally burst the bubble, and we have made it into day 2 and the money. I now only have 15 big blinds, but I'm so relieved to be bagging and just going to fucking bed. We're going to be back on Sunday for day 2.
Good morning, everybody. We're here at day 2 of the UKPL main event in Edinburgh with 8-8 Poker, and we have a day 2 stack. I didn't do any of the face-to-face stuff on day 1 because quite often I don't expect it to be very relevant when I bust after 3 levels, but we've made it all the way through about 14 of them. We've now got 15 big blinds. We're going to be on the feature table, which is very exciting. I have Tower and Jay commentating over my 5-minute stay. I think we've locked up a min cash of something like 900. There's 32k up top. There's 47 or so people left. You never know, guys. It could just be my day. Let's go and find out.
Okay, so we're into day 2 and looking for a spot after locking up a min cash of £820. Unfortunately, for the first few levels, spots have been few and far between. My patience does appear to pay off though, as when the button opens, I look down at the best hand in poker, a glorious pair of 8s. And I'll let the Tower and Jay take this one from here.
Oh, and he's got 8s and only 8 big blinds, so we're gonna have to send this in over this button open. It's unfortunate, but there's not much more we can do. As East here, have to. If he folds here, there we go. There's the all-in. Knows he's got to put it in. Davey will get out of the way, and there's an 8 gone as well. Tower.
Here we go.
Easty.
All in for 51.
He won't know it, but he's down to 12% equity here. You can see it slightly increased when Davey folds.
Yeah, King 8 folded jacks. So we're down to the old ultimate one outer.
Well, here's the 888 Pro.
Just the top of the range.
Will you find the 888?
On the call, feature.
I do have the best hand in poker, so you never know.
One left in the deck for him.
Then we get the miracle. Does the 888 saving?
Not looking good, Tower.
Absolutely not.
We've got some obscure running. Oh, wow! Or just ping it off on the turn, fading aces and jacks to double. Where's he found that from?
Wow. He will not know there's only one in the deck.
And 10 on the river. Easty doubles with the case 8 on the turn. 888.
Always coming.
Best hand in poker confirmed as I fucking drill the 1 outer to keep my hopes alive. We are still very short at around 17 bigs, but now we have something to work with. Straight away it folds to us on the button and I look down at more ammunition to continue the assault. I open to 2 big blinds with King Jack offsuit, but the big blind wakes up with 10s and I'm forced to fold to a 3-bet. I was really excited to take down another pot, but alas we don't, and we've got 15 big blinds again to battle with. Another barren spell of hands and I'm down to about 8 bigs with the dream fading. I hear of 2 knockouts on the outer tables, which gives me a very small ladder to £930, and that gives me the strength to pop in my pocket 3s in under the gun 1. Can we get it through?
Is it donut time yet?
I don't know, Tower. I think I need some.
How are you feeling?
Some proper food. I'm in a lot of pain. I'll be honest with you. I'm in a hell of a lot of pain. But what can I do?
What I meant
There's
was pass me the box, please.
Oh, is that what you meant? How I'm feeling? I thought you was actually genuinely concerned for my health.
I am, you know I am. Nick's in with the 3s.
Pocket 3s, 8 big blinds for Easty.
If you win this hand, I'm having a donut. It's all about Nick Eastwood now, if I have a donut or not.
Tom looks out, asks for a count, and he's the man that's on fire, not the one you want to get called by. The heat Tom's caught as of late. Ace 8 suited here. Like from small, theoretically, I think we call. However, Easty hasn't played many pots since today started. I think this is the 3rd pot he's V-pipped. So maybe I might start calling a few pips tighter for that reason. But nonetheless, Tom does just go with call with the ace 8 suited. Michael Caine out the way, and Easty going to have to win a flip here with the threes versus Tom Lags Out. Tom Lags Out could be the first player in this tournament to shoot over 1 million chips if he can find an ace or an 8.
Let's see. I don't mind if that's the one I'm losing.
I don't mind you losing either.
Well, in the core feature.
Okay, either way, I'm quite hungry.
So he's in front with the threes. Oh,
That's going to be difficult. That's going to be real
Still in
hard.
front, Tal.
he's still in front.
Better than seeing an ace or an 8. That's not though.
Well, we've got threes and queens.
So Easty needs a 3 or a queen to boat up.
And doesn't.
Doesn't get it. 5 of hearts on the river. Great run from Nick Eastwood. He finishes in 32nd for £930. So just before him, losing 2 on outer table as well. Johnny Scott and JD finishing 33rd and 34th respectively for 930 and 900. So when that updates top right of your screen and it is all up to date, it should say 31 players remaining.
Easty in 32nd. Well done, Easty.
See open, 11-7.
It was a good hand.
Here he is in the chat. Win 1 outers, but still lose flips. Shock.
Like I said at the table, I'm far better at 1-outers than at flips, and that is the end of my UKPL run. Obviously, I was super satisfied to get into the money for once, and I felt more confident than I ever have before. I'm going to be playing a ton of these events coming up, and if the action is interesting enough, I will make a vlog for them too. On the horizon are UKPLs in Luton and Manchester, along with 2 Ace8 live trips in Bucharest and Barcelona. Hopefully we can find another deep run in those, but for now it's GG from a great event in Edinburgh, and I will see you on the next one.